This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about Bitcoin being back to the races. While Bitcoiners have been busy fighting each other, and while Bitcoin Knots has been climbing in the charts, as people continue to lose faith in Bitcoin Core, in spite of all of this drama and crisis, Bitcoin, ironically or not ironically, has been pumping, currently trading at nearly $103,000 per coin. And we can see over here when we look at the top node versions here on Clarke Moody's Bitcoin dashboard that Knots, Bitcoin Knots, which is an alternate implementation of the Bitcoin software, is climbing in the charts, currently at 6.59%. It's basically gone from 1 or 2% all the way up to 6%. So a lot of people moving over to Bitcoin Knots from Bitcoin Core. And meanwhile, as we said, Bitcoin has been climbing in the charts, now number 5 on this list of top assets by market cap, recently climbed above Amazon, and now is trading just below Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, and gold. So now Bitcoin has flipped over the past few months. It's flipped Berkshire Hathaway. In other words, it's trading at a higher market cap than Berkshire Hathaway, than Amazon, than Meta, Facebook, and even silver. Bitcoin has flipped one of the most important precious metals, which is silver, and now at about $1.1 million per Bitcoin, which I think we're definitely going to get to. Bitcoin is going to flip gold at that point as well. That's why I'm always sad when I see something like this person commenting in response to all the drama and what I've been covering on this channel. It pains me to say, but I've been selling my Bitcoin for gold and silver. Not all of it. I'll keep some, but I've seen some worrying things about Bitcoin. Now, I've had the privilege of being on the inside of some very successful hedge funds and companies, and sometimes when you're on the inside of the sausage factory and seeing how the sausage is being made, it's easy to become really worried and bearish as you see the chaos of human beings working together. Meanwhile, in that same situation, the outside investors are usually very happy because the sausage factory is doing really, really well. So it's a pretty bad analogy, but I still think it's an analogy for Bitcoin today. And so I don't think people should be panicked by what I've been covering on this channel. This is how Bitcoin has always been. It's always been one big mess, one big chaotic civil war, chaotic mess on the inside, and a rocket ship on the outside. It's just the more you learn about things, the more worried you can become, but I think that's the wrong response. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to help to support this channel's educational mission. Hit the subscribe button. That does really help the channel. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video, and share this video with a friend or family member. So with regard to all of this chaos, the good news is that you do know that Bitcoin is still really decentralized, because if it weren't, the people in control, whoever that would be, would have stepped up by now, reasserted control, told everyone how things are going to be, and quote unquote calmed the markets. And that's actually how it works in many other cryptocurrencies, because they're such highly centralized projects with a small insider cabal, usually that's benefited from a huge insider allocation like a pre-mine, a small insider cabal that controls the development map and everything else. That's Cardano, that's Ethereum, that's everything else. So while we're talking about scams, I also wanted to take a trip down memory lane. I saw yesterday that Celsius founder Alex Mashinsky has just been sentenced to 12 years in prison. I'm not sure that's enough, but I haven't been following this case very closely. But this was something that I talked about quite a bit on this channel if you weren't here a few years ago. And I thought of this actually 2 days ago when Blacksmith MD, in response to my video about Bitcoin Core removing the mask, he said I'm the biggest Grinch in Bitcoin, which I sort of took as a compliment, I guess. But my response was, people said the same when I warned them about Celsius, FTX, Voyager, Ethereum, etc. The smart ones listened. My track record is open for anyone to view on YouTube. And this was another comment from 2 months ago from Omega Shadow 64. You inspired me to write this. P.S. I'd have saved my stack 3 years ago if I had listened to you sooner. Celsius. So this was someone who was unfortunately hurt by Celsius. And then someone sent me this thing from Reddit under our /Celsius network. I'm sitting here ruminating, stewing in my own pot of emotions. This is from a couple years ago. And while so many things run through my mind, this one in particular keeps striking a chord. I watched this video right here. It's a video by a guy named Matthew Kratter, and he runs a YouTube channel called Trader University. That's what this channel used to be called before I pivoted completely over to Bitcoin. He runs a channel called Trader University, and in this video, he completely called what was going to happen to Celsius a month early, and I watched this video on May 15th. Unfortunately, he didn't listen. I'd been warning about Celsius for many years, as well as BlockFi and Gemini. This was as early as February 10th, 2021. And I talked about the commingling of assets that may be going on, the lacking insurance coverage, the counterparty risks, and also the risk of having one's account frozen by any of these corporations. And I concluded that you're much better off holding your Bitcoin in self-custody. And then this is the video that guy was referring to from May 15th, 2022. In this video, I discuss possible signs of distress at the Celsius network. Their token is in free fall, and many customers appear to be having trouble getting their deposits returned to them. And so I warned people to get out, and then just a month later, Celsius did end up freezing withdrawals because Alex Mashinsky was a scammer. Now, none of this is to brag. Well, maybe a little bit it is, but I just want to demonstrate and remind newcomers of some history here. I just want to demonstrate that I've taken some really controversial stances over the years, stuck my neck out, and received a lot of flack for it at the time. People were very unhappy at the time that I was saying bad things about BlockFi in particular, as well as Celsius and Voyager and FTX. So this is just some historical context. If you think I've gone off the rails warning about Bitcoin spam and all the current problems with Bitcoin Core and railing against people like Jameson Lopp and David Bailey, just know that I never do these things for clicks. I do it just because I'm seeing something really important, and it's usually because someone much smarter than me in Bitcoin, and in 2025 it's Luke Dasher and Bitcoin Mechanic who are really uncovering a lot of this, but it's usually because someone much smarter than me in Bitcoin has tipped me off to these problems. And in the cases of Celsius and FTX, thinking back on it, I do believe it was Cory Klippsten of Swan Bitcoin that I first heard sounding the alarm about these companies. So props to him for that. You can follow him on Twitter. I'll put a link to that in the description notes below. Predator points out here there are a lot of influencers who wrecked their followers last cycle. So I think now is also a time to remember these people so that newcomers know to avoid these snakes. Crypto Wendy, I'm not sure what her rest of her name is. She was a paid promoter for Voyager, Celsius, and FTX and many scammy tokens. And then, of course, she told everyone to dump, but she dumped her crypto and Bitcoin when Bitcoin was at 15,000, and she said it was going to 10,000. So be careful of people like her. I would also caution you, and again, this is just my opinion, I would caution you against Invest Answers, who's been a very bad actor in the space, who, as far as I can tell, has never apologized for what he did. But what he did when it came to Celsius, he was actually good friends, it seems, with Alex Mashinsky, and he was also getting revenue from him through referral codes. So let me just play this really quickly.
I want to make a full disclosure up front. Yes, I have referral links for the things I use. TradingView, FTX, Celsius.
TradingView, FTX, and Celsius. Well, TradingView is a good company, but FTX and Celsius, I remember reading, and I don't know if this is true, I was trying to find it, but it was widely circulated at the time. Someone went through and looked at one of Invest Answers live streams and saw that he had made something like $600,000 in referrals by putting people through this meat grinder, which was Celsius. The irony of this tweet here, this post that I'm referring to as well, is it's done by someone who's very pro-hex, which is another scam. So you sometimes have scammers making fun of scammers. So that's something else to be aware of. But it's important to know the history of these people. And there's certain channels like mine, in fact, while I was actively trying to warn people about Celsius, there was a live stream where Invest Answers was telling everyone not to listen to me. And so you have to be careful who you listen to, and you also have to know you have to ask yourself who is being paid by whom. And there's still so many people in the cryptocurrency space who are being paid by someone else. The only source of my revenue is revenue from this channel, and then I do sell courses at bitcoinuniversity.com, but I'm not being compensated by any of the companies I talk about, and this gives me real flexibility. So for example, I used to recommend Trezor a lot, and then I realized that they were just wrecking their customers by giving them, allowing them to store other cryptocurrencies. And that's when I really switched to Cold Card and began promoting that. And I'm not being paid or anything by Cold Card as well, but just for newcomers to be aware of, you have to be very, very careful in the space, and you have to know who is getting paid by whom. I sometimes think about my role in this channel in relation to that old joke about what a priest or pastor should be doing, this old joke about they should comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. If you've come to this channel and are a newcomer, I'm willing to comfort the afflicted. I want you to know that Bitcoin is robust, it's anti-fragile, it's going to the moon, and that most of the FUD that you've heard is completely wrong. But then if you're a bit further along in your Bitcoin journey and you've been enjoying the pump, I want you to know that Bitcoin still faces serious challenges and that you can do your part by following these developments, by running a node, and also by actively using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. If you want to learn how to install knots, I will put a link to this. A lot of people in the comments have been asking this. I'll put a link to this, which contains my own video as well as a more extended video by BTC Sessions and also by Cole about how to install and run Bitcoin knots. And if you've already downloaded the blockchain for the Bitcoin blockchain for Bitcoin Core, you do not need to download it again. In most cases, you can just basically download Bitcoin knots and then point it to the Bitcoin blockchain, which you've already downloaded. So I'll put a link to this in the description notes below. Feel free to retweet it so we can get more and more people moving over to knots. Finally, in terms of Bitcoin developers, Bitcoin Bull 21 sent me this. I think it's quite interesting. This is an old interview with Michael Saylor from December 11th, 2024. And he actually, I believe this is the one he took a lot of flack for because he was saying we have to be very careful about funding Bitcoin devs. He says the biggest threat to Bitcoin is overfunded, enthusiastic developers who want to do something cool, who want to make it better, or who want to make Bitcoin fun again, as the Taproot wizards are always saying, which means they want to do their scam on Bitcoin. So I thought it'd be interesting just to revisit this briefly and to hear what Saylor has to say about Bitcoin funding.
Interesting. Talk about Bitcoin development a little bit. We had a conversation on the sidelines of the MicroStrategy conference in Las Vegas about this. There is some momentum building for an upgrade to Bitcoin. I think one of the least controversial and more widely accepted one is this op check template verify. Gives you some better encumbrance tools, so you could do like vaults and like other types of custody. Do you have thoughts on that specifically, or in general Bitcoin upgrade sort of philosophy?
I'm very conservative on development. I think we should go forward very carefully, very, very carefully, with consensus, and think hard. I think I will go on the record. I think the biggest threat to Bitcoin is overfunded, enthusiastic developers that want to do something cool, that want to make it better. And I actually think.
And I think this, Michael here is also speaking in response to people saying, why aren't you funding Bitcoin devs more, or funding Bitcoin Core? So just another piece in this puzzle, and I thought it'd be interesting to reflect on this. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.